Hello, my beautiful friends. It's Catherine here from Catherine Ewing and also Divinely Inspired Feminine Leaders. So hold on for a minute. I'm just grabbing something I'm going to use. I want to jump on tonight and really just sort of check in and see how you're doing. I've been noticing a bit of a shift this week in the folks that I'm talking to, my clients primarily, and some friends and colleagues. And a few things have come up that I wanted to address tonight and just share some thoughts with you, and let you know that whatever it is that you're feeling is absolutely normal. Whatever you're feeling, because we can be all over the map with this current situation. But before I jump into the content, I want to do one of my favorite things, and I'm doing this as much for myself as for anyone who might be coming on as I do this. So if you've seen these before, these are my tingshaws. These are beautifully made discs, sound discs, I guess is the best way to describe them. And they are prayed over, and they have sacred symbols on them, and they're a beautiful way in just a very short period of time, very simply, to shift energy. And I like to use these or my singing bowls when I'm working with clients or starting a live or doing a class, any kind of workshop, just to sort of, one, indicate that I'm shifting my own energy from whatever I was doing a moment ago to now, and then also to help shift the energy in the space, because the sound vibration, as you may or may not know, acts kind of like a laser beam and really helps clear the space and allow the energy to become more aligned. So the couple of things that I wanted to talk to you about tonight were things that I've been seeing this week, as I mentioned. And it's actually more than two things, but it sort of falls into two different categories. And one is the general pattern that I'm seeing with folks over the last week that feels different than it did last week or even the week before. So that's sort of more generally how people are feeling, what they're expressing, and where their emotions are. And the other is a very clear pattern that I've seen in working with my clients over the last couple of weeks. And so I'm going to speak about both of those. So first, and I also am going to share a little bit of information with you about why what you're experiencing is completely normal. And I have a little what do you call it? Sort of slide, handmade slide here to share with you. You're probably not going to be able to read it, but hopefully I'll explain it to you. So the things that I've been noticing are that people's energy has sort of shifted considerably this week. And I'm specifically talking about people in the beginning who for the first 3 or 4 weeks, I don't know how many weeks we've been in this, have basically been saying, you know, I'm doing well, I'm staying in good spirits, I'm trusting this is all in divine order, and, you know, that there's a bigger plan. And, you know, I'm one of these people who say these things, and that this is really a period of time for a shift and a change. And I really believe that we're going to come through on the other side in a better place. And I still believe all of that to be true. But even those people who believe that to be true are starting to feel a little frayed around the edges, right? Maybe it's not quite so easy to go to that place in their mind anymore. Or they're starting to have some questions, you know, whether that's because just it's been taking, you know, its toll, right? The numbers are mounting, especially here where I am in Connecticut, and I know certainly other places. I have a daughter in New York City and a son up near Boston, so certainly those high population areas. And so sort of the reality of this situation, I think, is settling in a way that it couldn't have 2 or 3 weeks ago. Because I think most of us know somebody who has been impacted, whether it's the loss of a loved one or someone who was diagnosed with the virus and may be doing better now, but was pretty sick for a while, and how that has really shaken people's worlds. Because even if you've recovered, simply the fact of having had this virus or had a family member, a loved one who had it, has got to have been a traumatizing experience for all the obvious reasons. So I think, as we see the numbers rising, and as we're being told that, they're going to continue to rise, or, this could last much longer than we anticipated, or we may see a drop when the weather gets warmer, but then, if we don't continue to do the social distancing, that we may see a rise again in the fall, where it's more traditionally flu system. So a lot of that information, I think, is just starting to wear on people and getting a little frayed around the edges. And then more specifically, people who have been laid off, clearly, or were unemployed and looking for work when all of this happened, so they weren't specifically laid off, but they're still unemployed. The money issues are starting to become very real now, as they've perhaps applied for unemployment and maybe it's not coming through, and they're frustrated with trying to get some answers, and they've had to survive on, the first month through this, and now they're into month 2. And as they're looking forward to maybe being able to pay their bills or not pay their bills, as the next month comes around. So that's more real for people. People who are working are feeling the strain, right, of all of the required and necessary changes. And I want to talk about healthcare a little bit separately, but, again, the grocery store clerks, the people who are still going into offices where there's all kinds of protocols and procedures that have to be followed, and special accommodations made, just having to make all of those changes, and the stress of that. Change in and of itself is stressful, but now we're having to make these changes because our very lives might be endangered, or the lives of our loved ones. So everything is just sort of amplified and magnified. I was reading something a week or so ago about even simple decision making, things that we used to, I'll just stop at the store on the way home. Now it's a multi-step process, sort of self-questionnaire. Do I really have to go? Do I really need it? What time of the day do I want to go? If I go to one store and they don't have it, am I just going to come home, or am I going to try to go to several different stores? Like, everything becomes much more complex, right, and multi-layered. And that is stressful. Decisions that used to be not even decisions, I guess technically they were decisions, but wasn't something that we would give a lot of thought to, right? So anyway, the strain of working and decision making. And obviously there's the strain of not working, but there's also, the working parents, particularly, single parents, but even, two parent families, where they're trying to do their work, either go to the office or work at home, and they're also trying to manage daycare or homeschooling and everything that comes with that. I've talked to several people this week who are just all of a sudden feeling the exhaustion and the weight of that, and how much it's impacted their own ability to take care of themselves, between the working hours that they're putting in, and then the hours they're trying to be present with their kids and make sure they're doing the schooling and what they need to do. So even though the world is sort of slowing down, for many people, there's not necessarily a speeding up, but a doing more than they were doing before. And then, of course, obviously people in medical and first responder fields who are A, exhausted, B, probably working way more hours and shifts than they should be, and frightened as their colleagues maybe stop working because of illness or by choice. I know my son's girlfriend works in an assisted, I want to say assisted living facility, or, nursing care situation, skilled nursing care situation. And of the 13 nurses who were on staff there, 8 have left. And even though she has a compromised immune system because of some of her own health issues, she's continuing to work because she feels like that's her responsibility. But she's being, we're asked to work double shifts, work more hours, while she's also still a nursing student. So, again, this is the situation with healthcare now, with people both being impacted with the virus itself or opting to stay home now. That puts a heavier burden on those who are still working. And then people like myself, right, who live alone and are beginning to feel the effects of the isolation and are maybe feeling disheartened by how long this might go, by what they're missing, by not seeing their loved ones. I know it's my grandson's birthday later this month, and it's his 5th birthday. He's going to start school in September. It's kind of a big time for him, and not being able to share that with him or be around him for that is difficult. And I'm certainly not the only one, but it impacts me as it impacts many other people, not being able to see loved ones, and particularly elderly who may have a loved one in a skilled facility, right, or a nursing home or whatever, who may be experiencing their own health issues or disorientation, and struggling with not being able to see their lifelong partner. So it's really beginning to settle in. And even if we're basically doing okay, we're still all impacted by the collective energy, right? This is an individual and a collective experience. And so, we're in this soup of consciousness. We're in this energy field where fear and loss and grief and overwhelm and sadness and uncertainty and any number of other things are in the field, and we all experience that. So the thing that I really want you to come away with from this, live tonight, is that however you are feeling is perfect, right? There's no right way or wrong way to do this. We're all going to be on, the emotional roller coaster. And I've said this before. I wanted to share, and this is small, and I understand that the print is going to be backwards. So I'm going to talk through it first. You might not even need the visual. But if you've studied any psychology at all, I'm sure you've heard of Maslow, right? And his sort of levels of needs, right? So what's happening on this scale, and I'm just going to hold it up here because I know this is going to be a little tough. So there's basically 5 levels of needs that we all have. And the most basic at the bottom of the pyramid is our physiological needs, right? It's basically our survival needs. So we need food, and we need water, and we need air, and we need sex. And so this is the very, very basic level of needs that every person has to have met in order to then move up on this scale of, on this developmental scale. The next layer is basically about safety, right? Once our basic needs for being able to survive at all are met, then we move into the need for safety. So it's needing to be physically safe, and that might mean having a place to live, right? Where you can be in out of the elements. having work, being able to be financially secure. So it's all of what is considered safety. And for children, this is predictability. This is having some structure in a family system where their needs are met, where their need for, way down here for food and water and being cleaned and taken care of. When they cry, somebody will come right to their rescue, and meet whatever their needs are. So physiological safety. And then as we move up the scale, we move into social, right? So here is about relationships, creating a sense of belonging in the world, and then esteem, where we are wanting to feel respected and appreciated and have accolades and be recognized for who we are and what we're doing in the world. And then all the way up at the top, we come into self-actualization, where it's really about us reaching our highest potential. So what's happening now is that wherever you were along this continuum, we have all been dropped back into this basic needs category, or even maybe these first two, right? We are right smack here. The world does not feel like a safe place right now. We're not sure that our basic needs are going to get met, right? I went for a walk today and just popped into Cumberland Farms for a moment to just grab some creamer for my coffee, and there was no milk, there was no creamer there. So, just a simple example, but, we see this every day now where, the grocery shelves are not stocked in the way they usually are. So here we are. We're dropped back down into this place where our mind is trying to wrap itself around the fact that our basic needs for food, shelter, clothing, life, the things that sustain our life, are not fully available to us. And it activates the amygdala, the part of the brain that has the job of, it's like the guard in the watchtower, looking for potential danger, potential threat to our survival. And so whether you are personally affected by some of the things I talked about, or not, either way, your amygdala, your nervous system, your vagus nerve, whatever language you want to use, it'll at some point a little bit interchangeable, is going to be more highly activated than it normally is. Imagine a car in neutral and someone's just pushing on the gas, right? You don't have to be going anywhere, but there's this revving up that's happening in, the mechanics of the car that want to make it go. So this is our nervous system revving up because the amygdala, the part of the brain that, again, is that guard in the watchtower, is being activated. And when it gets, it's like a dial, it's like a thermostat getting turned up. When it gets turned up to a certain point, when it gets activated enough, it sends a message to the hypothalamus that we're in real danger. And that's when there's the change in the chemistry in the body, where the adrenaline and the cortisol really spike, because now we're going to go into fight or flight mode, right? Or freeze or faint. And we know there's actually 4 Fs, fight, flight, freeze, or faint. We used to just use the 2, but, over time we've realized that there are actually 4 ways in which we sort of automatically can respond when we feel threatened or when our life is in danger. So that's the one thing that I want you to, kind of just be focused in on, that your emotions are going to be changing, right? As you go through your day, depending on what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you're doing, who you're thinking about. And the other thing that I've noticed, and it's amazing, I would say almost without exception, I'm noticing this with all of my clients, is that when this amygdala is getting activated, each person has a slightly different experience of that. And I've talked about this a little bit. I don't want to go into too many examples, but what I'm noticing is that in the way that they are experiencing this traumatic event, when we start to dig and follow the pattern, the energy in almost every case goes back to an unresolved trauma or a dysfunctional pattern in their family system, which says to me that the pressure of this virus and all of the stress that is going along with it is literally squeezing, forcing energies that have not been healed. It's like it's holding a mirror up to the things that have not been healed within us, and it's reflecting back to us what is still the major issue that we, I don't want to say have to, but have the opportunity to resolve at this point in time. I hope that's clear. Like I said, I don't want to go into too many examples. But I'll just use a couple just to give you some clarity. So one client who had a traumatic incident, medical incident, when she was 16 years old, actually two levels of it, but one included being told that she might have the AIDS virus. Now imagine a 16-year-old back in the 80s when AIDS was first coming out. So she said to me, she got tested, and back in that day we still had house phones, and then she sat next to the phone for a week waiting for the test results. And she remembered, when I first asked her when her anxiety started, she knew exactly. She said, that week I sat there and I had anxiety attack after anxiety attack after anxiety attack waiting for those test results to come. So now here she is, a 40-something-year-old woman who's terrified to go to the grocery store because she might catch some virus, right? And it's triggering everything in her that got suppressed. She did not have AIDS, right? And she moved on with her life. But the trauma of that experience and the way that it was stored in her energy body got activated again, reactivated in this current virus situation, right? So that's just one example. So just know that things may be coming up for your review, right? For your reevaluation, for your resolution. Because the virus, the activation is bringing it up. But I also believe, and I think I posted this in both my personal and my group account today, was a beautiful letter from Peggy Black and the team where they talk about this ascension process that we're in and the level of light energy that's forcing things to come to the surface to be revealed and healed so that we can continue to move through this ascension process. Now, you may believe in that and you may not, and I'm not here to convince you one way or the other, but if you want to read, sort of something about what might be the higher spiritual and metaphysical experience that's going on, about, all of this light literally coming onto the planet and forcing everything that's been darkened in the shadows to come to the surface to be seen. So that happens both individually with unhealed wounds that people have been carrying that have been in the shadow, literally, right? We talk about shadow work, right? And doing the inner child work. So these experiences, I call them trauma capsules, unresolved core wounds that we have been carrying are now being activated both by the sort of the amygdala, the fight or flight response of this virus, and also because of this process that we're in with all of the light energy coming onto the planet. So I think that's where I want to leave this tonight. And again, what I really want you to come away with is a clear understanding that as all of this settles in even more, you're going to find yourself, in this emotional roller coaster. So I want you to understand that this is not, you're not losing your mind, right? You're not crazy. This is a result of the activation of the fight or flight response. And there's absolute reason for it. And we talked about, Maslow's needs, and we are bumped back down here, right to the very bottom of the pyramid, where we are in this place of concern, whether we're consciously aware of it or not, but certainly on a subconscious level, this fear that our basic needs are not going to be met. And, in many cases, that's certainly true for people who are becoming ill or, losing their employment, or maybe now as we go through a couple of months, fear about losing their housing. So there's a lot going on that's activating that stuff. So a few thoughts actually before I close for how you can calm this amygdala, right? Bring this level of activation down as best you can, that I want to just share with you. So the more you can stay in some kind of daily routine, right? And I know people are hanging out in their pajamas, and maybe their schedules are off, but the more you can maintain sort of as much normalcy as you can, so exercising, showering, dressing, eating on some kind of regular schedule, going to sleep at your regular time, just really trying to maintain that sense of normalcy. Creating a support network for yourself, especially if you live alone, right? So whether it's phone or Zoom or text, find some folks that you can talk to, that you can laugh with, that you can commiserate with, but do your best to try to get some of your needs for social interaction met. Get out in nature. Again, I'm a big proponent of this. As much as you can, take a walk, even if it's 10 minutes around the block, right? Do what you can to get yourself outside. We're actually, one of the beautiful things about this slowdown is that we are noticing differences even in the natural world around us, where fog is lifting and we're seeing more, clear skies. We're seeing more animals sort of in their natural habitats, right? People are reporting hearing the birds singing more. I don't know if they're singing more or if people are just hearing them because they've slowed down enough to hear them, but it doesn't really matter. The more you can be in nature and just appreciate the beauty, the sounds, the stillness, the more that will calm down your nervous system and bring you into the present moment. Even doing a walking meditation, one foot in front of the other, just I'm here in this moment, everything is well, I'm walking, my body is moving, I can hear the birds, the stream is flowing, right? Just one foot in front of the other, reminding yourself of what is true for you in this moment to keep the mind from spinning out. And along with that, making time for getting quiet and going inward. This is an opportunity to take some time to go into meditation, to ask those questions. Is there something that is wanting my attention, right? Is there a younger part of me? Is there an aspect of myself that is needing healing, that's needing attention, that's needing love in this moment? And how can I address that? We talked about walking, we talked about meditation, and of course, breathing is a part of all of that. So bringing your attention to your breath, slowing down. I've actually been doing Wim Hof's breathing exercises, which has been kind of interesting. But just even placing your hand over your heart and closing your eyes. As you do that, you close out the outer stimulation. It helps quiet the mind. Placing your hand over your heart drops your attention there. And then if you start to breathe and slow your breath, you are actually reversing the fight or flight response, because when we're in that response, our eyes are wide open, our breathing is rapid, right, and shallow. So when we intentionally close the eyes, bring the attention to the heart, and slow the breath, we are changing the chemistry in our bodies by sending the message that we are in a relaxation response. So we're sort of tricking our own mind right there. Anything you can do to bring yourself into the present moment. Put your feet on the floor, get quiet, just listen. I hear the clock ticking, I hear the bird outside, I see the picture on the wall, right? I feel the breath moving through my nostrils. Anything that's bringing you back into this present moment is absolutely helpful. Again, from keeping the mind spinning out, going down the rabbit hole, getting into the what ifs, or projecting too far out into the future. That's what you want to do your best not to get caught up in. Practicing good habits, right? Not overindulging. And that can be in anything. It could be in the ice cream that I just bought, right? But not excessively using alcohol or food or binging on news or social media. Just be aware of your patterns. And even if it's excessive sleeping, right, or excessive working, we're all going to have a different way of trying to manage this slightly elevated sense of anxiety. So just notice if the way that you're managing that is supporting you or perhaps detracting in some way from your well-being, mental, emotional, and physical well-being. And again, no judgment, simply an observation. Is this thought, is this word, is this action supporting the highest expression of myself or detracting? And you can use that in your relationships. Is what I'm thinking or about to say or do going to support this relationship or detract from this relationship? And it's particularly important now when those of you who are, sheltering at home with family and loved ones are in close quarters, and people might start getting on each other's nerves, right? Being particularly conscious about what you're about to say or do in any particular moment. And of course, reaching out if it feels like things are spiraling out of control, your worry, your anxiety, right? Some excessive pattern, please reach out to, whether it's just a friend, a loved one, or if it need be someone in the mental health field, someone like myself or any of the many wonderful, mental health professionals out there. Everybody can be seeing clients now online. There's no need to be concerned about I can't get into the office or everybody's offices are closed. Everybody can see clients online at this point, or phone or video. So if you're struggling, please reach out. There are people out there who are ready to support you in whatever way they can. So that's it. I think I'm complete. I hope that was helpful. Certainly put any questions or comments in the box below. Let me know if these things are helpful, or if there is something in particular that you would like to hear me speak to, because there's so many topics I could speak to. I don't want to be bombarding y'all, but there was like some southern thing that y'all must be, because I have relatives that live down south. I don't know. So funny. But if there are particular things, questions that you have, things that you might like me to speak to, please let me know, because I would like to make these as helpful and as relevant to all of you as I can. All right, so have a beautiful night, all you beautiful souls, and be well. And here, I just did this with a friend. Be well and prosper, all you Star Trek fans. And I'll see you soon. Bye now.